On the banks of the river Mynach in Ceredigion, an old woman was standing, stamping and cursing. The river went rushing past her down into a deep gully below, throwing up sprays of water, but this old woman raised her voice above the sound of the crashing water to make herself heard. "Damn Yati," she yelled, "damn you!" This old woman was Megan from Llandynach, and she was shouting at her old cow who had somehow got out of her field and was now on the other side of the river peacefully cropping the grass. Megan had no idea how her cow had escaped, nor how she'd managed to cross the treacherous waters of the river Mynach, but now that she was on the other side, Megan had no way of getting her back. The river was extremely dangerous. Megan looked down at the little black dog sitting at her feet. What will we do now? Without that old cow's milk, we are going to go very hungry indeed. What's the matter, Megan? Megan spun around to see a monk standing behind her. He wore a brown cloak and a string of rosary beads about his waist. "Beth sy'n bod, Megan?" he asked again. "It's my old cow," Megan said. "She's escaped and now I've no way of crossing the river and getting her back." "Don't you worry," said the monk. "I'll build you a bridge. I love to build bridges. Then you can cross over and get your cow back." "Why would you do that?" Megan asked. "I've no money to pay you." "Oh, don't worry about that," said the monk. "I'll do it for free. All I ask in return is that I may have the first soul that crosses over the bridge once it is built." Megan agreed to the trade, and she went back home to her little cottage to wait for the monk to build the bridge. But as she walked home, with her little black dog trotting at her heels, Megan was thinking. You see, Megan was no fool. She was pretty sure she'd seen a forked tail sticking out from under the monk's cloak, a pair of cloven hooves beneath it, and a pair of horns sticking up from his head. Yes, old Megan was pretty sure that was no monk she'd met by the banks of the river Mynach, but yr hen ddiafol, the old devil himself, come to trick her out of her soul, and she knew she was going to have to be very, very careful. Just a few hours later, Megan heard a yell from the direction of the river. She and her dog went back, and there, somehow, amazingly, incredibly, the monk had built a bridge, strong and tall, with thick arches over the roaring waters of the river. "What do you think?" said the monk. "Do you want to try it out?" Megan thought very carefully. "Is it a strong bridge?" she asked. "Of course it's strong." Megan reached into her pocket and took out a loaf of freshly baked bread. "Will it take the weight of this loaf of bread?" she asked. "Of course it will," said the monk, who was now getting a little irritated. "Throw the loaf onto the bridge and see." So Megan raised her arm high in the air and threw the loaf not onto the bridge, but across to the other side of the bridge, and her little black dog leapt up, scampered over the bridge, picking the loaf up in his mouth and running off with it. "Thank you," said Megan. "It is indeed a strong bridge, and you may have the first soul that crossed over it. My little black dog, for all he's worth you." And the old monk cursed and stamped, once, twice, 3 times, and then disappeared in a puff of smoke and a sharp smell of brimstone. And then Megan knew for sure that it had been the old devil himself, yr hen ddiafol ei hun that she'd been dealing with, come to try and trick her out of her soul. To this day, the bridge stands over the river Mynach in Ceredigion, and it is known as the Devil's Bridge.